at 1.07 billion. Increase in the number of Superior Court judges will trigger the need for more support staff in the period 2026 and beyond. To address the human capital deficit, the judiciary will require funding in the sum of 256,259,750,078 ngwe. The committee therefore recommends that the budget for the judiciary be supplemented, as this institution is key in the administration of justice in our country. The committee further observes that the constitution under Chapter 1 of the laws of Zambia created the Superior Court as well as establishment of the divisions of the High Court under Article 120. This, coupled with the continued devolution of the High Court to provincial centers, was done without corresponding court infrastructure. The committee therefore recommends an additional allocation of 2,100,000,000 for the construction of high courts in Kasama, Solwezi, Chipata, Mansa, Chinsali, Mongo and Choma, and rehabilitation of existing high court buildings in other provinces. Alternatively, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Finance enters into a public-private partnership to construct high courts in the provinces, with the cost of the project being recovered from the fines. Chairperson, the committee notes that the judgment in the case of John Sangwa and the Law Association of Zambia versus Attorney General 2021/CCZ/0012, where the court ordered the executive to see to it that judicial financial independence was progressively achieved. The committee is concerned that from 2021, when the committee made the steps taken by the executive to actualize the judicial fiscal autonomy, which is a precursor to judicial independence and non-interference, apparent to actual, has been very, very slow. In that regard, the committee agrees with the stakeholders who submitted that the executive must immediately take steps to secure judicial fiscal autonomy by bringing legislation that will actualize the pronouncement of the Constitutional Court. Therefore, the court strongly recommends that the executive brings to the National Assembly bills to effect the constitutional provisions that will make the judiciary financially independent. The committee further expressed concerns as the matter was not resolved, even though it was brought before the committee and was addressed with the Minister of Justice in 2024. Chairperson, the committee notes that the budget allocation to the Ministry of Justice under Head 31 is 1.46 billion. The committee further observes that the compensation fund, which is 66% of the ministry's budget, is not sustainable under the Ministry of Justice, and recommends that strategies be developed to manage compensation and awards and liabilities that continue to exert pressure on the ministry's budget. In this regard, the committee recommends that the compensation fund, which currently stands at 16 billion, be transferred to the Ministry of Finance and National Planning. In addition, the committee recommends that the liability should be subjected to debt restructuring. The committee further raises concerns that over 66% of the ministry's budget is allocated to the compensation fund, neglecting other key departments such as litigation, legislative drafting and prosecution functions, and other heads under the ministry. This neglect hinders smooth justice delivery and affects other important areas negatively. In light of this, the committee, in consultation with the minister and the relevant controlling officers, recommends that a budget variation is done from Head 18, Program 4162, Subhead Compensation Fund as follows. There's a table there, Chair, with your indulgence. From Head 31, Program 4165, Compensation Fund, which is 26.6 million, to Head 34, 4140, Promotion and Protection of Human Rights, 3.790 million, and 4.199, Management and Support Services, 22,810,000. The total variation of 26.6 million kwacha. Chairperson, the committee notes that the budget allocation to the Human Rights Commission, Head 34 for the year 2026, stands at 56.5 million. This is insufficient for the Commission's. In that regard, the committee notes that the Human Rights Commission does not have adequate funding in order to achieve the functions bestowed on it by the recently enacted Human Rights Commission Act of 2024. In that regard, the committee recommends that additional funding should be sourced to empower the Human Rights Commission by way of a supplementary budget. The committee further notes that the offices for the Human Rights Commission were not conducive or in line with the Commission's mandate as per the Human Rights Commission Act of 2024, and recommends that subsequent budgets should consider reallocation or construction of new offices. The committee notes that there is need to maintain support for investigations, monitoring by providing funding required for human rights investigations, advocacy, and access to information activities. The committee notes that there is inadequate support for the Human Rights Commission's outreach programs, community outreach programs, and human rights education campaigns aimed at strengthening citizen awareness and accountability. In that regard, the committee recommends that some of the funds proposed for the allocation from the Ministry of Justice be directed to this activity once approved. In order to address some of the immediate challenges, the committee, in consultation with the minister and relevant controlling officers, recommends reallocations of funds from Head 31 Ministry of Justice to Head 34 Human Rights Commission as shown below. Head 31 Program 4165, Subhead Compensation Fund, 26.6 million kwacha. To Head 34, Program 414, Protection and Protection of Human Rights, 3.790 million. And Head 34, Program 4199, Management and Support Services, 22,810 million kwacha, variation total 26.6 million kwacha. Chairperson, the analysis of the sector estimates of revenue and expenditure for the Electoral Commission of Zambia, Office of the Public Protector, Judiciary, the Ministry of Justice, and the Human Rights Commission revealed a complex interplay of opportunities and challenges faced by these entities in fulfilling their mandates. It is important to note that all the 5 institutions have been tasked with crucial roles in improving governance, protection of human rights, and enhancing service delivery in Zambia. However, it is concerning that several inherent challenges, particularly regarding resource allocation, operational efficiency, and strategic planning, are hindering their effectiveness. In this regard, the committee is of the considered view that there is need to allocate more resources to these institutions to optimize performance for the benefit of the people of Zambia. Chairperson, I submit.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson, for that submission. Honourable members, any questions? Honourable Murebwa, then Honourable Mabumba, and the Honourable Morenga in that word. Honourable Murebwa.
Honourable Chair, I sincerely thank you for giving me this opportunity to ask a question to our witness. Witness, I'd like to take you to page 14 of your document, where paragraph 7, where you've talked about the John Sangwa Law Association of Zambia. The 2 paragraphs basically, in summary, talking about judicial independence, meaning the judiciary should work without, first of all, what the judiciary determines must be observed and put to implementation. I'm wondering whether, witness, you had time to ask your witness at the time they appeared before you on the future of our judiciary, looking at the fact that what was observed in 2021 has continued to this date. We've read about certain cases that judiciary has determined something, and the executive has done something completely different. If I may quote a few cases here, we have the issue in Kabushi constituents, Kwacha, and now we have the PF having a consent and waiting for the judge's signature. Nothing is happening. In short, our judiciary seems to be a toothless bulldog right now. What is the future of our judiciary? Did you have any chance to talk to them about that, so that we have a formidable judiciary that can be trusted by everybody in Zambia? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mabumba.
Chair, the question that I intended to ask is what Honorable Jeff, but not what Jeff has asked. Maybe with your permission, if you could allow me just to come and supplement in a different way.
Sure.
But my question is on the public protector, Chair. Colleagues, look at your submission on page 5 in 4.1 there, which describes or establishes the mandate of the Office of the Public Protector. And then on page 7 and 4.8 there, maybe I just want to pick where you say the Office of the Public Protector had substantially performed very well in addressing maladministration issues, thereby meeting the target set for redress. Chair, what I want to find out from the committee is that, well, if we look at the key output and output indicators there, maybe this is why you are basing your decision. Did you have an opportunity in your conversation either with the office or with the other witnesses to try and establish whether these key benchmarks on which you have based your statement here, if you try to verify them? The key output there in terms of what that particular office is supposed to perform, and in your comment here, did you verify or you just based this on the basis of what you are given by the office? Then Chair, rather on Jeff is just to say, again on the judicial financial independence, when the judiciary, did you establish what this judicial financial independence implies? What does it mean? So that I think all of us as laymen, we are supposed to, what does the judiciary want in terms of saying they want to be financial independence? What does it mean to a local Zambian? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson, with your team, you can respond.
Chair, thank you so much, and allow me that I'll ask members of the committee to intervene as and when. For example, I'll invite Honorable Francis Mulengafube to speak to the constitutional provision on the judicial financial autonomy, because the financial autonomy of the judiciary is a constitutional matter. And the reason why John Sangwa and the Law Association of Zambia went to court was because they sought for the Constitutional Court to interpret a constitutional provision. And so at some point I will invite the Honourable Member for Chilubi to buttress that point. And I think in essence that should, let me also move to Honourable as a question, that financial independence becomes very critical to the dispensation of justice in our country, on the premise that he who pays the piper, chairperson, dictates the tune. The perception that the judiciary can be for hire, or that judgments can be skewed in a certain direction, and this has been the perception over time in our country. The reason why the judiciary has then said that going by the constitutional provision, we ought to be financially independent as an arm of government. But then the executive has been mandated to take steps, progressive steps, to bring about bills to the National Assembly so that we create a framework within which this independence is going to be done. Chair, with your indulgence, again, it becomes very important, Honourable Chairperson, that once the judiciary, which is a fountain of justice in our nation, is viewed as divorced from any other external forces and whims, especially political whims by the those would be holding political power at a given time, it also goes to reinforce and give confidence in the members of the public that indeed meted out it is going to be justice that is not skewed due to any other considerations. Chairperson, coming to the question by the Honorable Mabumba with regard to the public protector. The public protector, Chairperson, the public protector becomes very important in dealing with issues around maladministration. But one of the concerns that has been even amongst our citizens is that there's been less or little visibility of this particular institution. Meaning that the public protector has been able to plan within the limited resources availed to it. Chair, what this does is that the public protector would plan, but within a very limited scope. And based on that scope, they'll be able to then have all these boxes ticked. And that becomes the picture that we received. And the more reason why, Chair, this committee has then recommended that we provide for resources that match the scope and the mandate given to this very important agency. In that they do not just need to plan in a micro manner, but they must be able to plan with the whole country and the sort of coverage and the province as is provided for them under the Constitution. But maybe at this point, maybe let me invite the Honourable Member for Chilubi just to speak to the constitutional provisions.
Well, I think I'll stick to what you already mentioned, because I want to stick to what we already discussed. I think the judiciary is established by Article 118, and from there it flows in different courts. And as you have already indicated, that it's a constitutional provision that the judiciary should be independent, and if what we are trying to confine, Chair, is fiscal independence. And I think the fiscal independence in this case is explained by that very judgment of how it's supposed to be done, where the Sangwa case came in, and it was defined where the judiciary is supposed to interact directly with the Minister of Finance. Yes, during the submissions they did say that they are interacting directly with the Minister of Finance, but even when they are interacting directly with the Minister of Finance, there are certain control measures where they maybe they delayed financing and all that. You find that maybe the chief administrator and all those factors are supposed to come in to relate directly, say, with the Secretary to the Treasury, and the gap that still remains, and what that particular judgment envisaged is where you have the judiciary as other branches of government, an arm of government that is not supposed to be subjected to any other control. But where you have a situation like these appointments, which we rectify, and then coming in, you find that the removal of judiciary and the control of their pecs are under the Emolument Commission as it stands, when it's supposed to be done by different, and that contradicts the judgment that was there, because the Emolument Commission controls. You saw that even during submission, I think in our committee, the judiciary submitted specifically on that one. But I think the issue of the matter is overlooking the judgment that is already there. And it has specified of how to approach that fiscal independence. I hope that
Your mic, Honorable Fuze. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you so much, and maybe for avoidance of doubt, Article 123 of the Republican Constitution states, and I quote, "The judiciary shall be a self-accounting institution and shall deal directly with the ministry responsible for finance in matters relating to its finances." Then sub-article 2, "The judiciary shall be adequately funded in a financial year to enable it to effectively carry out its function." Chair, submit.
Thank you. Honorable Yamata.
Mine is a quick one. The honorable member, he brought up issues to do with the independence of the judiciary, and he cited some examples of I think is it Kabushi, Kwacha, He cited examples of the PFs, where he talked of the signature, and of course the issue at hand, where the judiciary is seeking for autonomous independence. Chair, I wish to bring to your committee that this committee did not interrogate the issue of, because of, there was also the issue, what is the future of the judiciary. So this committee did not interrogate to find out whether there is some interference from the judiciary. As far as this committee is concerned, Chair, I want to put it on record. This committee has no evidence whatsoever that the judiciary is arm-twisted by any invisible hand. I wish this, I thought I should put this on record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mavenga, did you raise your hand? Okay, you can ask a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Let me take you to page 4, recommendation number 2, where the committee says the committee recommends that the funds be promptly released for the remaining mass mobile registrators in 2025, which is scheduled to commence in October 2025. Now, Chair, looking at the remaining time, I don't know whether the committee had requested this institution to actually go to the minister and to engage the Minister of Finance over this matter, because the time is not there. What time are they going to mobilize? And this item is very critical. And how much money are we talking about? It's not given how much is actually supposed to be released. Then the other issues on page 13. Page 13.1, that is 3.91, where they are recommending a supplementary budget, because we have 256 million. Now, normally, supplementary budget has a limit as well. You can't just be given all the money which you need in that particular year. Now, my question is, why didn't they think of phasing out this activity so that over a number of years money can be allocated to this particular component rather than just asking it as a lump sum, because it may not be feasible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Smingi. Your mic, Honorable Vega.
Thank you, Chair. Debate will be on item 1 on page 4, where Honorable Mabenga was talking about the money which has been budgeted for. I thought we are looking at the budget for 2026 now, and where sources of money can come from, either from another line or from another those lines, so that we can divide funds from one place, one ministry to another ministry, or from within the ministry. But here I'm seeing the committee is talking about supplementing their funds next year. Did the committee look at this matter in that way? Because we are supposed to be looking at a budget, not a supplementary. That's my first point. The second one is on the 2025 release of funds. When you are saying the ministry will release money as quickly as possible because this is crucial. Did you take into consideration the fact that actually that activity is taking place now, and I'm sure the funds are being released? Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson, can you respond to those?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Let me allow Honorable Mulenga Fube to come in on the ECZ head, and then I'll take up the other question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson, and thank you, Chair, for allowing me. The issue of the ECZ starts with what is estimated. What is estimated is about 1.9. That's what they need for them to carry out all the activities from the time they reported to the time that we are going to exhaust the activities that are related to elections. Having said that, I would like also to note that by the time they were reporting, they had only received 28% of this year's budget. And why they had received 28% of this year's budget is because their activities their budgeting is activity based. Activity based in that the treasury only releases as and when the money is needed. By the time they were coming to the committee for interaction, we learned that the money that is remaining, which is from 800 and something million, 800 and something million, they are supposed to release this October as we proceeded to the registration of voters. And according to what they projected, that's the bulky of the money, the meaning that there will be more activity between October and December, and that's the largest portion of the money for this year. That's where it's supposed to go. But talking about the issue of the 1.9 billion versus 1.2, and which gives us a variance of I think 853.6 million. It brings us to a station where most of these are related to elections, and this gap, they indicated that the involvement of the cooperating partners may not seal the gap. And the issue of where possible supplementary budget comes in is that we need to know and understand that there's an interconnection between this budget and any other supplementary budget that may come forth. And if, for instance, something cannot be accommodated under the current structure of the 250 something billion that we are talking about, and you know the limitations of how much Parliament can do at this stage and how we can shove with the figures, it only means that the only fiscal space that remains to accommodate the deficiency is a supplementary budget to that effect. But we are dealing with an activity that needs to be funded at all costs, meaning that there is need for us to think, and it's good that this is before the expanded committee, to see how we can look at this, because it's not something that we can postpone. It's not something that we can play with and say, no, let's postpone and then it's underfunded. That's where the supplementary window comes in, because we looked at it that the budget is connected to any other supplementary that may come, I don't know, at any time of the year when the budget implementation starts in January, meaning that there can be any budget supplementary depending on the needs-based approach. But looking at this deficiency, which is 800 plus million, meaning the cooperating partners, as indicated, can only come in this little, and then the rest should be solved by resources within our country.
Thank you. Your mic, Honorable Foy.
Just to add, Chair, the committee looked at all the heads and the programs within where we could maybe move resources. But unfortunately, there is no window where we could move resources, and that's the reason this committee is recommending for a supplementary budget at the right time. I thought I should add.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you so much, Honorable Hamata. Chair, maybe just to buttress that, we looked at two avenues. We looked at the provision for supplementary budget, and in considering all the heads under our mandate, we considered the supplementary window, but we also considered where variation can be done. For example, under justice, we've been able to where the would have to look at mechanisms of bringing a supplementary budget to ensure that we are in call with some of these unavoidable and just speak to the question around the human resource deficit within the judiciary. The attention should be drawn to the fact that the National Assembly chairperson and the executive has brought to the National Assembly the legislation to the effect that we need to increase the number of superior court judges, and in increasing the number of superior court judges, these judges will come with additional staff, and this is again what we are speaking to, and the matter we extensively interacted on with the judiciary itself. Chair, submit.
Thank you. Honorable Movenga has the question being Honorable.
Not fully, but you see, my question is on the, as we are saying, these judges are coming in quite okay with the staff, but they cannot be employed at the same time. What I'm saying, why can't we do the first, why can't we go for their phased approach, so that probably this year we employed maybe 2, 3, the other year we employed some, rather than depending on the supplementary budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson.
Chairperson, I would want to believe that that is a recommendation that the expanded committee should be able to make on this particular matter. Ours was that engagement and looking at what we have been able to pass as the National Assembly, and the fact that we need to bring additional superior court judges, and these judges will have to come with additional staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, now if you check on your committee's work, page number 16, that is our document here. You have your talking notes, page number 16 and 20. Page number 16, just a moment, where is it? Page number 16, you have given us a table there where you are requesting for the transfer of funds from head number 31, which is Ministry of Justice, to head number 34, which is the Human Rights Commission, and the amounts are stated there. Then if you go to again page number 20, you have also recommended for the transfer of funds from head number 31, Ministry of Justice, to head number 34, the Human Rights Commission, with those amounts stated. Now, if you go to our standing orders, that is the standing orders 168, consideration of the estimates of the by the committee, and the item number where it says in considering the estimates, may recommend to move or to vary the estimates within the same head of expenditure, but shall not move or vary from one head of expenditure. Now your request, because we want to ensure that these are managed. You went outside your scope of work, and therefore becomes very difficult maybe for this committee to make these recommendations. I don't know within the time frame that which is remaining through your clerk or whether you are able to maybe align these figures within these lines, if at all is possible. If it's not possible, you can just take note that because of the limitation of the funds, then you cannot. We leave it either to this committee to take what you have. But I just wanted to buttress the point that you went outside the scope of your, because you are recommending from moving funds from one head to another, which work maybe is vested in this in the expanded and the planning and budgeting committee. I just wanted you to note of that, and also to indicate that if at all you feel that there are some funds you can move within these heads to cater for these shortfalls, then that is fine. Because if we left it the way it is, then these recommendations in terms of the financial movements from one head to the other may be difficult for this committee. Yeah. Maybe you can, I don't know whether you can comment on that, honourable members, or maybe you can take note of this as a committee, the expanded planning and budgeting committee, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Vice Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Your guidance is greatly appreciated. And even in coming up with these recommendations, we indeed looked at what was within our mandate as a committee, and but we were of course cognizant of the fact that this particular committee, the expanded committee, has the sort of jurisdiction, and we knew that within the heads as provided, it was very difficult because of again the underfunding and under budgeting, and one of the one arrangement we identified in consultation with the minister and all the relevant controlling officers and agencies was what has been highlighted, and I think with indulgence, Chair, allow us to submit that the expanded committee looks at what we have provided, not as us usurping, the powers of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
So, honourable members of the committee, obviously take note of that and see whether that is feasible. Okay, honourable members, we end here. Thank you, Vice Chairperson, with your team for coming to appear before this committee. We are meeting the Minister, I think, on Wednesday next week, Minister of Finance and National Planning, and we will do consider your recommendations as we wind up our week. So thank you very much for coming. Have a good day.
Good morning. The Committee on Legal Affairs, Human Rights and Governance have just made their submissions to the expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee, and this committee was led by the Vice Chairperson of the committee, who is Mr. Sunday Chanda, and he is also Kanchiwia Member of Parliament. So just now we stand by for the third witness to make their submissions to the committee. Keep watching Parliament Television. Good morning.
Breathtaking and thrilling. Visit Livingston City for pure adrenaline and fun. Let its thrills and spills inspire you. Livingston features arguably the best sunset views in the world. Memorable game viewing adventures in the small but well-stocked Mosi-Oa National Park, where you can see the rare white rhino. Experience the best of Zambia's rich culture and history